Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm Reverend Tomas and traveling. So, all of this week, Cindy, my wife, and I will be here in McMinnville, Oregon, and I'll be bringing you these videos from time to time because, well, spirituality doesn't have to wait, does it? Your spiritual practice doesn't necessarily take 2 or 3 weeks off while you're on a road trip, does it? No, right? Here we are, and we're at the very end of the manual for teachers, and a couple of things here. As we look at section 29, Jesus has called it as for the rest, dot, dot, dot. Right. And we have some very important things that we want to highlight here today. But understand that Manual for Teachers is just a name. Like any name, it's just a collection of sounds that we've made up and decided, we've made an agreement that it's going to stand for a certain thing. And the reason I bring this up is this is one of the three main parts of A Course in Miracles. There are two other supplements to it that we will get to, in fact, not in too much time here, in a couple of weeks here in this video series. We'll get to a couple of the supplements, but it's one of the three main components along with the text in the workbook. And it's called a Manual for Teachers. It's just a name. And something that Jesus points out right here in paragraph 1 that's really important is the difference between teacher and student. He says teacher and pupil is temporary by definition. And also, let's point out that you're always teaching, whether you hold yourself out as a teacher or not. You do not have to hold yourself out as I do as a spiritual teacher. You don't have to profess to be a teacher, a school teacher, or a university professor, or a trainer, or whatever it is that you do here for work or a career in this world. You're always teaching. There's only one of us. And because of that, you're always interacting. Here in the world where we appear to see 8 billion people and then countless billion animals, fish, insects, other living things, where there appears to be such multiplicity, what's really important is that we're always teaching. Because everyone else that appears to be here is interacting with us, whether we say anything to them or not. They're interacting with us, whether we're in their physical presence or not. People learn from us and we learn from them. So there, in fact, is no real distinction between teacher and student. Something that I love to mention here, because it applies to me and my situation as a teacher, is no one ever learns as much as the teacher. Why? We're learning as we teach. You're doing the same. You're teaching as you learn and learning as you teach. There's no difference. So a manual for teachers is a manual for you. That's the short way of putting it. Yeah. It's for you. And here's the wrap up to this. This section talks about referring all decisions to the Holy Spirit. So, referring all decisions to your guide, whoever or indeed whatever that is. And if you have more than one, if there is in fact a council, referring decisions to them. Referring decisions to your inner teacher. Let's use that language here going forward. So understand when I say referring all questions to your inner teacher, all decisions to your inner teacher, that's what I'm talking about. Here in the course, we're invited to refer all decisions to the Holy Spirit, and there are multiple advantages to that. Number one, we don't know when we're here running around amok in our supposedly separate individual lifetimes. We're never assured that when we make a decision, it's going to be the best for every living thing across all time, are we? It's a tall order, isn't it? It's a tall order, and it can be any decision, literally, even something as insignificant as what to have for breakfast. Now, are we saying refer everything like that to your inner teacher? Well, you don't have to do that. But big things, yeah, right? In terms of general guidance, it's really important that we take this to heart because the Holy Spirit knows all ends. We do not. We really don't know all ends. And can you rest assured that any decision, especially the big important ones, like relationship related decisions, decisions related to your spirituality, career stuff, yeah, can you rest assured that everything that you do is going to benefit all beings throughout space and time? 100% guarantee. No? All right, then let's refer decisions to our inner teacher who does know all ends. They've already happened. Literally, literally, your inner teacher knows all ends. Ask him, ask her, ask them, ask it. Holy Spirit's really in it. Ask. Another benefit, when we do this, we're absolved of guilt. What happens when we make wrong decisions here in the world? We feel guilty about it, don't we? If we spout off in the heat of a moment, say in an argument, and say something caustic, nasty, and mean, we feel guilty about it. Whereas if we had referred, had the presence of mind, which you may not have at the time, but hey, we work on that on the path, don't we? When you refer something to your inner teacher, you may act differently. And in fact, you open up some space where you can hear that guidance and receive that guidance, feel or intuit that guidance and react differently, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's being aware. That's why meditation's a thing in world spirituality. Really, I mean, that's why it exists as a thing. I mean, yeah, it feels good and everything like that. It's calming and it's nice to be calmer, isn't it? But it opens up that gap where we can make a different choice, where we can choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit instead of the ego, where we run around and suffer and feel guilty. So, in fact, referring a decision to our inner teacher helps absolve us of guilt. Therefore, if we're able to sit back and listen, we can rest assured that we're going to come up with the best response. And it's not the ego self that comes up with it. So, this is really part of what's meant by of myself, I can do nothing. And it seems paradoxical, doesn't it? It seems antithetical. I mean, it does, it can, especially the more wrapped up we are in our ego mind, this false sense of self, the more wrapped up we are with that, and the more we identify as an individual, so called individual here in the world, the harder it is for us to grasp this concept because it seems wrong. It seems like there's no way in hell that it could ever be this way. And it really does seem that way. So it's something that's presented to us in this fashion, one lesson at a time, gradual. We say here on the path that it's a process, and in truth, we're not really going anywhere. We've never been anywhere because to go somewhere would imply that we're leaving somewhere else, and there is nowhere else. We simply are as God created us. So, what we call a spiritual path, what we call a journey or a walk, is merely an undoing. It's letting go of our identification with the ego. It's practicing forgiveness as it is presented and intended to be practiced here in the Course. It's doing all of that and making that a habit where we begin to leave our ego identification to the side. And how will you know when you're doing it? Well, how do you feel? What are you experiencing? The peace of God, which we're invited to want, that and only that, here in A Course in Miracles, is beyond words, it's beyond all concepts. Yet it can, even here in the world, be experienced. So as we leave our ego identification to the side, let's pay attention to what's going on. How do you show up in situations? In a situation where you would have been extraordinarily judgmental in the past, are you noticing that gap? Are you more cool? That's a very, very good general spiritual and practical life lesson, isn't it? To be cool and not be an asshole. How about that? Be cool. Don't be an asshole. There you go. Spirituality explained. Because that's a good general guideline. Have you opened up some of that space in interactions? If you go to a family event, like a family barbecue, something like that, where there are people there with whom you disagree on many different levels. All right, happens, doesn't it? In the past, you may have been judgmental. Now, after spiritual practice, do you notice that you're lighter hearted, that they actually respond to your lightness of heart by being cool, or at least more relaxed in your presence? Are you noticing that? Are you noticing forgiveness opportunities? Any feeling that is not of joy is an opportunity for forgiveness. And everything beautiful that you see is symbolic of our own beauty, of our own light and limitlessness as Christ. It is. The world is not happening to us. You could say that it's happening for us, and it is so we can notice these forgiveness opportunities and wake up. Course in Miracles is done at the level of mind, i.e., cause. The level of the world is the level of effect. So if you're following this and following this video series, yeah, we made this, made it all up. What you see before you is not who I am, and it's not who you are. It's really not. So in this world, we have a gradual curriculum like this one, like the workbook, like the manual for teachers, where things are numbered and sequential because every moment of every day is a new opportunity. We're presented with a new opportunity to choose yet again. Choose once again. Choose the strength of Christ. Choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit. Choose God instead of the ego. That is the choice that we make. And how do you know that you're on the right track? It's a really good question, isn't it? How do you know that you're doing this well or right? I mean, those are all just terms and adjectives. How do you know that this is working? Well, by its effects. How are you showing up? How are you feeling? How are you seeing things? And how is everyone responding to you? You can notice a difference here as well because you're always teaching. If you show up more chill, more cool, guess how everyone else is going to naturally behave. And if somebody doesn't, and they're having a bad day or something, or they spout off and they're a jerk, then, well, forgiveness opportunity. Not for what they did do to you, but for what they didn't do, because there is no one out there. We'll say so much more about this and about forgiveness. It is perhaps the central theme here in terms of practice of the thought system of A Course in Miracles. It's what we're encouraged and invited to do all of the time. And so this wraps up the manual for teachers. So I would love to just say a couple of words of thanks to all of you who have watched the recent videos and tuned in, and all of the new subscribers. This is something that I'm very happy to be offering you. This video series, A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love, began as a live stream on Enlightened World Network about a year and a half ago. So, of course, you could be watching this well into the future. It began in January 2021. We're at the end of August as I record this here today of 2022. So it's been going on for a year and a half. It will be going on for a significant time, years, in fact. Why? Because it's my calling, my job, so to speak, to show up and teach this course. And there are other videos here in this channel that are designed as a supplement to what we're learning here in A Course in Miracles. So we're headed on in the next video to a section that is very handy. It's called the clarification of terms, where Jesus clarifies certain terms that kind of mean something different in A Course in Miracles. We think of things a certain way in life, and this turns them on its head on purpose. This is good. And that's fun. So that'll be a short series of videos, the clarification of terms, that's called. And then what we'll do is we'll get into the pamphlets. One is called Psychotherapy, Purpose, and Practice. And that is a short section on well, a student-teacher relationship. In fact, it's set in the context of a psychotherapist relationship because the scribe of A Course in Miracles was a medical trained psychologist, a PhD from Columbia University, Helen Schuckman. Yeah. She was the one that heard Jesus's voice and took down A Course in Miracles. So we'll get to that. And then there's a very beautiful and highly impactful supplement called the Song of Prayer, which we'll do. And then we're going through the text right here. We've done the workbook. We've now done the manual for teachers. We're going to do the rest. Why? Because as long as there's forgiveness to be had, as long as we're still identifying with a hidden pocket of the ego, no matter how minute, we always need to go through this and to keep practicing. All right. I welcome your questions here as always, and I'm happy to be bringing you this set of videos. I'm delighted that you're joining me here. Thank you so much, and we'll see you very soon.